If you watched my previous videos, you might have found out where some of the bugs in GTA from the 3D universe come from. However, there are bugs that cannot be quickly explained and their origins are more complicated. On a daily basis, I work as an AI algorithm engineer and I would like to use my programming knowledge to solve complex bugs in GTA. This time I won't show you a few bugs, but I will present step by step the result of my investigation and the solution to the puzzle regarding infinite minigun ammunition. I will also try to debunk some myths circulating on the internet. You probably know this bug very well, but did you know where it comes from? In the Up, Up and Away mission, one of the elements is a theft of a helicopter from a military facility in Las Venturas. However, before we get to the helicopter, we have to get rid of two enemy hunters. We can do this using a minigun turret. And this turret is related to the bug, thanks to which we can get practically infinite ammunition for our minigun before completing 100% of the game. For this, we also need a jetpack. In my opinion, the simplest method is to enter the minigun's marker, lift off the ground with the jetpack, and press the key, by default Enter or F. After leaving the turret, CJ will receive an additional 30,000 minigun bullets. However, you must remember that normal entry and exit from the turret will take your additional minigun ammunition. Now that we have a basic overview of what caused this bug, I would like to briefly present the tools I used to find its source. But let's start with some basics. GTA San Andreas, like any other game or program, consists of a lot of programming code. To put it very simply, everything is finally compiled and reduced to one executable file. When you start the game, processes take place and place the necessary data in the memory. All we need to know is that the code programmers write eventually resides in the memory in the form of numbers. The first important program is Cheat Engine. It's a free program that I basically used to searching for values in memory, replacing that values, looking for what places in memory the game code reads, changing values stored in the memory into assembly code. The second program is Girda. It significantly accelerated the process of reading assembly code with C language. However, it was not the code that Rockstar programmers wrote, and it is only an interpretation of what is in the memory. This type of search is called reverse engineering, because based on the result of the code, without knowing what it looks like, we have to find out where the error comes from. The basic activity was to find the memory location associated with the ammunition. It's easiest to look for more unusual values, so in my case it is the number of charges. However, when entering 3019, we see that there are several such values in memory. There may be cases where the number of values will be much higher. In the next step, if we throw the charges, we will see how one of these values will be updated according on how many charges we have left. Now we can check where these values is in memory by clicking Browse this memory region. Let's display the values in decimal, and now we know where exactly our charges value is. This leads us to a location in memory where there are likely other cells responsible for storing the ammo values of other weapons. If we use the minigun, we can see that the number of bullets in the magazine, including the number of all bullets, is stored exactly here. Now we can check what will happen if we enter the minigun turret during the Up, Up and Away mission. We see that the value has changed and 30,000 bullets have been added to the ammunition we had. When we exit minigun mode, 30,000 will be deducted. At this stage we can start a deeper search for the reason why the minigun's magazine is not reduced when we're using a jetpack. So entering with the jetpack on will correctly add ammo. However, leaving the turret with the jetpack on will most likely result in the failure to execute a certain part of the code responsible for deducting ammunition. So let's check the place where the ammunition removal operation takes place. We will do this by observing which statement in the code reads or modifies this value. And at this point the level increases because after interacting we are presented with several instructions that read the value of our minigun ammunition cell. Fortunately, we are not interested in them because the problem occurs after leaving the turret, and as we can see, it only gives us one instruction if we did not have a minigun in our inventory, or two if we already had it before. You can also see that these two instructions are not far apart in memory. So let's check in the GrandTheftMysteries program what the immediate surrounding of the code responsible for removing the minigun's additional ammunition look like. I will copy the cell address and search for it in GrandTheftMysteries. On the left side we can see the same code layout as in Cheat Engine, but on the right side we have decompiled assembly code. Our address points to line 25, which is responsible for zeroing the ammunition. However, this address, lines 28 and 29, will add the ammunition we had before entering the turret. And as I suspected at the beginning, this fragment is included in the if statement, which gives us another valuable piece of information. If we follow the developer's assumption, the checked value will always be different from 0x37 or 55 in the decimal system. Now, let's check whether this condition will be met if we ascend using a jetpack. The answer is no. And at this point we found out that when executing this bug, the condition is not met, so we skip the part of the code that removes 30,000 bullets. Okay, but that still doesn't solve the whole mystery. What is the memory location EAX to which we compare the constant value 55? So let's check what is written to the EAX register. By clicking on the C code, we will see which operation maps it to the assembly language. In this case, move means that we want to move the value located at this address to the EAX register. The square brackets indicate that the value ESI plus 70C is the cell address. Let's go back to Cheat Engine and look up the address of our assignment statement. Let's now set a breakpoint so that the execution of instructions in the game stop at this point, so that we can check what value the ESI register stores. We go back to the game and perform debug. So ESI stores this value, and if we add 70C, we will get to the location of our mystery value. Yep, we have it. Interestingly, this cell is very close to the values storing the parameters of our arsenal. Now, let's use the option to check what instructions modify this cell again. First, let's check how this cell is read and modified by the minigun turret. In addition to the comparison statement, the cell is written to by this address. And we see that the values match. This is where I experimented a bit to look for connections, and I discovered one thing. This value is right next to the number of bullets of the weapon that we are currently using. So we have an interesting conclusion. Changing the weapon will cause the value of the weapon we are currently using to be entered in our mysterious cell, which will replace the value of 55. Indeed, the situation with the jetpack is very similar. If we apply it, 55 will also be replaced with the number of the current weapon. I'm not sure about this and it's not important information, but 55 may mean some default value that is common to the jetpack and the minigun turret. Now that we know what common cell is used by the jetpack and the turret, and we know when they modify it, let's now check the most important thing. How this cell is modified when executing this bug. I'm going to set my cell to watch and let's get into the game. Put on the jetpack, let's get into the marker, let's go up, get in and out of the turret. These are instructions that are executed sequentially during the bug. For better illustration, these are the instructions for normal putting on and taking off the jetpack, and for normal entry and exit of the turret. The differences are immediately visible because many of these instructions are not executed. Let's sum everything up and finally solve the mystery. The first three instructions are called after putting on the jetpack. Two instructions follow to check whether our memory location contains the value 55. The third modifies it and replaces it with the number of the gun CJ is holding. The fourth line is responsible for checking whether our cell contains the value 55 after entering the turret. Under normal conditions, the condition should be met, but our cell no longer has the value 55 because it was overwritten after putting on the jetpack. This line is therefore omitted. Next, instructions are called that are responsible for removing the jetpack because we pressed enter. These also get done correctly. The instruction checks whether the value in our cell is different from 55. The condition is met, so the value 55 is written in our place again. This is exactly when everything starts to fall apart. We are at the exact point where additional ammunition should be removed, but this condition will never be met. Therefore, only one of the three instructions is executed. We skip this entire piece of code only because it modifies the value back to 55 when removing the jetpack. Now you know exactly how it works and where the bug with infinite minigun ammunition comes from. Well, infinite? We get about 30,000 bullets. Regardless of what you read on the internet, the correct answer is 30,000. Each time CJ enters turret mode, he will receive the same amount of the ammunition because this value is read from the memory by the code. Moreover, if we repeat this bug in this mission, we can get 99,999 bullets. This value is limiting by the code, and even if we override the ammunition value ourselves, after entering the turret a condition is checked whether our ammunition exceeds the hard-coded value. If so, we will be limited to this number. You must fly the jetpack to activate the bug. All the materials I saw showed you to go up with the jetpack. However, this is not necessary. We can also go with a jetpack on and click enter when we reach the red marker. And this is more difficult to do than the rising method. These two methods mean that if we are moving with a jetpack, we are sure that we will not take the jetpack off. So when you click enter, the instructions for entering the turret will always be executed, followed by the jetpack instructions. Standing in the marker with the jetpack and clicking enter will cause the jetpack to be removed first, and only then we will enter the turret, which will prevent the bug from being performed. We need to click enter several times for the bug to work. In here as well, there is no need to click the key several times. The first key click will always trigger the appropriate statement and value checking conditions. CJ must hold a specific weapon while flying the jetpack. This condition also doesn't have to be met. I have found that holding a Tech 9 or Micro Uzi is minimally different in the instructions invoked than having an MP5, but the effect will always be the same. As you can see, there have been fewer materials on the channel lately, but I fully devoted myself to creating this video. It was difficult to implement on many levels, but it gave me a lot of satisfaction and the feeling that I had done something different on YouTube. I also want to emphasize that the entire process that I have presented to you is the final version of the investigation, but starting from the scratch, there are often more starting points, and one clue leads to many places that have nothing to do with the error. If you want more of this type of content, or have any comments on what I could improve, please write it in the comments. Thank you very much if you have made it this far, and I encourage you to rate this video. That's all for today, until next time.